You think women are attracted to touch because of boldness, technique, or how fast you can create tension. But what pulls her in is not how much you touch. It's what your touch says about who you are. Most men get this wrong because they treat touch like a move, a trick, a shortcut, a physical sentence used to say what they do not have the confidence, clarity, or character to communicate any other way. And women feel that instantly. They feel when a man is touching from presence, and they feel when a man is touching from hunger. They feel when his hand is calm, and they feel when his hand is asking for validation. That difference is everything. If you need truth like that in your ear on a regular basis, subscribe now because you do not need more dating theater. You need reminders. You need clarity. You need to hear what actually works in real life before your own neediness turns attraction into discomfort. Here's what it really means. The touch habits women find deeply attractive are not aggressive habits. They are not random habits. They are not alpha performances for insecure men trying to look dominant. They are grounded habits, attuned habits, clean habits. The kind that come from a man who is comfortable in his body, respectful of her boundaries, and not using physical contact to steal closeness he has not earned. That is the thesis. Read it with your mind even while I say it out loud. Attractive touch is not about pressure. It is about congruence. It is your body language telling the truth before your mouth ever does. And that matters because the biggest misconception men carry into dating is this. You think attraction grows when you escalate harder, but attraction often grows when your presence becomes safer, calmer, clearer, and more intentional. You think she wants more force. Usually, she wants more certainty. You think she wants more boldness. Usually, she wants more groundedness. You think touch is about turning the heat up. But when a woman is deciding whether she can relax around you, whether your masculinity feels steady or unstable, touch is not just sensation. It is information. That's the hard truth. She is not only feeling your hand, she is reading your nervous system. She is reading your self-control. She is reading whether you are trying to connect with her or consume her. She is reading whether you can handle chemistry without becoming sloppy, whether you can express desire without making her responsible for regulating you. That's called embodied confidence. That's called emotional containment. That's called being a grown man instead of a boy with access to a body he hasn't learned how to carry. Why does this happen? Because touch bypasses language. Words can be polished. Words can be rehearsed. Words can be manipulative. Touch is harder to fake. The body reveals the man. If your touch is rushed, she feels your rush. If your touch is self-conscious, she feels your insecurity. If your touch is entitled, she feels your lack of discipline. If your touch is grounded, patient, and aware, she feels that too. And the female nervous system is paying attention long before she explains anything to herself in words. That is why men who memorize lines still fail. That is why some men barely say anything and still leave an impression. Presence speaks. Energy speaks. Tempo speaks. Restraint speaks. You want to know what women find deeply attractive? Not touch that says, let me see what I can get. Touch that says, I know exactly where I am, I know exactly who I am, and I do not need to force anything. That lands differently. It lands deep. And if you don't understand that, it costs you more than you think. You become performative. You become mechanical. You start touching to create reactions instead of touching from genuine connection. You stop paying attention. You stop listening. You stop reading her comfort. You stop noticing that her body is telling you the truth while your ego is busy chasing a fantasy. You stop being present and now your touch becomes noise. That's what turns attraction off. Not masculinity, misaligned masculinity. Not desire, undisciplined desire. So let's reframe the whole thing. These are not 7 tricks. These are 7 habits of a man whose touch reflects self-respect. And self-respect is attractive because it creates trust, not boring trust, not friendship-only trust. Tension with trust, warmth with control, desire with discernment. That combination is rare. That combination is magnetic because a woman does not deeply relax around a man who seems unable to relax inside himself. The first habit is this. You slow down before you touch. Notice I did not say you hesitate. I said you slow down. There is a difference. Hesitation comes from fear. Slowness comes from control. A lot of men move too fast because they are trying to outrun uncertainty. They think speed looks confident. No, speed often looks like panic wearing cologne. When a man slows down, holds eye contact, reads the moment, and lets the space breathe before physical contact happens, he communicates something powerful without saying a word. He says, I am not acting on impulse. I am choosing this. That is attractive because it makes the moment feel real, not opportunistic. Women feel the man who rushes. The hand appears too early. The touch lingers without enough emotional basis. The contact is technically small, but the energy behind it is loud. It says, I need this to go somewhere. That creates pressure. And pressure is not polarity. Pressure is pressure. But when your pace is measured, when you let anticipation build naturally, when your body does not jump ahead of the connection, you create the opposite effect. She doesn't feel managed. She feels met. The second habit is that your touch is brief before it is deep. This is where a lot of men sabotage themselves. They want intimacy without calibration. They want closeness without sequence. They want to skip the ladder and land on the roof. But attraction grows well when touch unfolds in a way that matches the level of trust already present. A light hand on her upper back as you guide through a doorway. A brief touch on the arm during a shared laugh. A calm touch on the shoulder when making a point. Nothing invasive. Nothing greedy. Nothing lingering for the sake of lingering. Just enough to register your confidence, your warmth, your awareness. That's called calibrated touch. That's called respecting pace. And do you know what makes it attractive? It tells her you are paying attention. You are not touching to take. You are touching to connect. You are not trying to drag the moment somewhere. You are letting the moment reveal whether it wants to grow. That is masculine intelligence. That is discipline in motion. The third habit is this: you touch with certainty, not apology. Now listen carefully, because insecure men distort this point. Certainty is not entitlement. Certainty is not ignoring consent. Certainty is not bulldozing through discomfort and calling it confidence. Certainty means that when touch is appropriate, your body is not flinching, second-guessing, or asking permission with 1,000 nervous signals after the fact. Your hand is relaxed. Your movement is clear. Your energy is clean. There is no weirdness in it because there is no self-betrayal in it. Women are often more unsettled by ambiguous, twitchy, half-guilty touch than by simple, grounded touch. Why? Because inconsistency feels unstable. The man touches and then pulls away like he's ashamed. He reaches and then freezes like he doesn't trust himself. He creates contact and then floods the moment with nervous laughter. That's not attractive. That's called internal fragmentation. Your body says one thing, your fear says another, and now she has to sit in the confusion you created. A self-respecting man does not do that. If the moment is there, he meets it simply. If the moment is not there, he doesn't force it. No drama. No confusion. No leakage. The fourth habit is one most men underestimate. You know when not to touch. That is a touch habit too. In fact, it may be the most attractive one of all. Because restraint reveals value. A man who touches constantly can start to feel restless, approval-seeking, overfamiliar. A man who can sit in presence, conversation, eye contact, and silence without needing to create physical reassurance every 30 seconds is communicating abundance. He is saying, I don't need to manufacture closeness. I can let it emerge. That is powerful. Think about what that tells her nervous system. It tells her you are not ruled by appetite. It tells her you can manage desire without becoming clumsy. It tells her your attraction is real, but your discipline is stronger. That matters. Because the most attractive men are not the men with the strongest impulses. They are the men with the strongest command over those impulses. Not repressed. Directed. Not numb. Disciplined. That's called masculine containment. The fifth habit is this: when you do touch, your touch matches your attention. In other words, your hand and your presence arrive together. This is where deep attraction is born. Not from the contact itself, but from the congruence behind it. You look at her when you speak to her. You are actually listening when she talks. You notice her response. You notice her comfort. You notice her energy. Then if you touch, the touch feels connected to the moment because it is. It's not random. It's not disconnected from the emotional reality between you. It matches the conversation. It matches the vibe. It matches the trust already in the room. That is why some very simple touches feel electric. Not because the touch was advanced, because the attention behind it was complete. Most people are starved for undivided presence. So when your hand says the same thing your eyes say, and your eyes say the same thing your nervous system says, she feels coherence. And coherence is deeply attractive because it is rare. Most men are split. Their words go one direction, their body goes another, their intention goes a third. She feels the fracture, and fracture kills depth. The sixth habit is that your touch protects. It does not impose. This habit has a primal effect when it is real. A hand gently placed on her back in a crowded space, not to own her, but to make movement easier. A small shift to the safer side of the sidewalk. A steadying hand as she steps down somewhere awkward. A calm, physical presence that reduces friction without making a show of it. Not performative chivalry. Not look how masculine I am. Just embodied care. Quiet leadership. Women notice that. Maybe she won't always describe it perfectly. Maybe she will just say she felt comfortable around you. Maybe she will say your energy felt different. Maybe she will say being with you felt easy. But under that is often one thing: your body was not making extra demands on her body. Your presence reduced tension instead of increasing it. That's called secure masculinity. And it is attractive because it combines strength with emotional safety. The seventh habit is the deepest one. Your touch never asks her to validate your worth. Sit with that. Most unattractive touch does not fail because it is too masculine. It fails because it is secretly needy. It asks, do you like me? Am I winning? Are we getting somewhere? Am I enough now? And all of that gets transmitted through the smallest contact. That is why two men can do the same exact thing and get a completely different response. One is touching from overflow. The other is touching from emptiness. One says, I enjoy this. The other says, please confirm me. Women can feel that in seconds. That's called emotional dependence leaking through the body. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. The guy who always needs to hold something, prove something, escalate something, create some response right now, he is not leading. He is asking. He is not expressing grounded desire. He is begging with better posture. And that is why the deepest level of attractive touch comes from a man who already likes himself. A man who does not need every interaction to become a verdict on his worth. A man who can enjoy closeness without turning closeness into oxygen. Now let me give you the archetype, because you need a picture, not just principles. The man women remember is not the loudest man in the room. Not the man who tries to break the touch barrier like he's following a script from a desperate forum. Not the man who performs dominance because he does not actually feel solid. The man women remember walks into the room already inhabiting himself. His posture is easy. His gaze is steady. His pace is unhurried. He does not fidget with his body because he is not fidgeting with his identity. He knows how to stand. He knows how to listen. He knows how to occupy space without grabbing at people to prove he belongs there. When he touches, it fits. That's the word. It fits the moment. It fits the connection. It fits the trust. It never feels separate from the rest of who he is. And because it fits, it lands. There is no begging in it. No rush. No cheap hunger. No hidden demand. He is a man with purpose, which means his attention is valuable. He is a man with boundaries, which means his warmth does not spill everywhere. He is a man with self-respect, which means his desire does not make him reckless. He is grounded enough to hold tension without breaking it, and disciplined enough to create comfort without draining attraction. That man does not need touch to create a persona. His touch simply reveals the quality of the man already there. And understand this, women are not drawn only to touch itself. They are drawn to what touch reveals. A chaotic man makes touch feel chaotic. A centered man makes touch feel centering. A thirsty man makes touch feel like a request. A grounded man makes touch feel like an extension of calm masculine certainty. That is the difference between being physically close and being deeply attractive. One is contact. The other is character translated through the body. So what causes men to fail here? The root cause is almost always the same. They are not actually comfortable with desire. They are either ashamed of it or ruled by it. So they swing between awkward restraint and overeager contact. Too little, then too much. Too much, then apology. They don't know how to integrate masculine energy cleanly, so their body becomes inconsistent. And women don't trust inconsistency. It makes them work too hard. It makes them wonder what version of you they are getting. That uncertainty shuts the door on depth. And the cost is brutal. You start turning every interaction into a performance review. You obsess over whether you touched enough, touched too much, touched at the right moment, said the right thing after. You stop reading the room and start managing your image. You stop feeling her comfort and start chasing your own success metrics. You stop relating and start strategizing. And once you live there, your body gets disconnected from your presence. Now touch becomes a tactic instead of an expression. Now she feels the agenda more than the man. That is why the reframe matters so much. Stop asking, what touches do women like? Start asking, what kind of man does attractive touch come from? That question changes everything. Because if you become that man, the habits stop feeling mechanical. They become natural. You slow down because you are not desperate. You stay calibrated because you are paying attention. You touch with certainty because you are not split inside. You know when not to touch because restraint does not threaten your ego. You match touch with attention because you are actually present. You protect instead of impose because your masculinity has structure. And your touch does not beg for validation because your worth is not up for auction. So here is what you do. First, regulate your pace. Stop lunging into moments because your mind cannot tolerate uncertainty. Breathe. Slow your body down. Let connection happen at human speed. Second, clean up your intention. Before you touch, ask yourself one brutal question. Am I expressing warmth or am I trying to get reassurance? If it's reassurance, stop. Redirect. Third, pay attention to her body, not just your fantasy. Is she leaning in or away? Relaxed or guarded? Open or managing distance? Red reality? Fourth, keep early touch brief and natural. Stop using your hands like bait. Fifth, let your eyes, voice, and attention do most of the work. If those are weak, no touch technique is going to save you. Sixth, practice restraint on purpose. Sit in tension without trying to cash it in immediately. Seventh, build a life that makes you less needy. Because a man with purpose touches differently than a man whose whole emotional world is hanging on one date. Stop forcing. Stop proving. Stop checking for instant reactions like a starving man looking for signs of life. Stop confusing escalation with depth. Stop using women to medicate your insecurity. Stop touching to test your worth. Redirect that energy into your body, your composure, your standards, your discipline. Become the kind of man whose presence speaks before his hands ever do. And yes, that means doing work outside the dating context. Train your body so you feel at home in it. Fix your posture. Slow your breathing. Learn how to hold eye contact without either challenging or collapsing. Practice being warm without spilling. Practice being still without becoming stiff. Practice listening without plotting your next move. Because the most attractive touch does not begin in the hand. It begins in the nervous system. It begins in the identity. It begins in whether you can carry masculine energy without turning it into pressure. A woman does not deeply relax around theatrics. She relaxes around integrity, around a man whose actions match his energy, around a man who can want her without trying to take from her, around a man who can lead a moment without hijacking it, around a man whose body communicates, "You are safe with me, and I am safe with myself." That message is rare. That message is unforgettable. So if you want those 7 habits in one truth, here it is. Slow down. Calibrate. Be certain. Respect restraint. Match touch with full attention. Protect, don't impose. And never let touch become a request for validation. That's it. Simple. Not easy, but simple. And the reason it's not easy is because it forces you to confront yourself. It forces you to see whether you are touching from fullness or from lack, whether your masculinity is grounded or performative, whether your desire is clean or undisciplined. This is bigger than dating. This is about how you carry yourself as a man. Because the man who learns this stops trying to manufacture attraction from the outside in. He builds it from the inside out. He does not say, "What can I do to get women to respond?" He says, "What must I become so my presence feels clear, calm, and compelling?" That is a better question. That is a stronger question. That is the question men ask when they are done chasing hacks and ready to develop gravity. And gravity is the word. The right touch habits create gravity because they come from internal order. Women feel that and they settle closer without even understanding why at first. Not because you gamed them, because you brought a different quality of energy, one that did not rush them. One that did not drain them. One that did not turn chemistry into a demand. One that let attraction breathe. So the next time you are with a woman, stop obsessing over whether you are doing enough. Ask yourself whether you are present enough. Ask yourself whether your body is telling the truth. Ask yourself whether your touch, if it happens, will communicate calm strength or hidden hunger. Ask yourself whether you are trying to connect or trying to be saved from your own insecurity. Those are the questions that separate boys from men. Because the truth is, women are not deeply attracted to touch alone. They are deeply attracted to the man revealed through touch. The man who is not frantic, not flimsy, not entitled, not apologetic, just grounded, clear, respectful, awake. A man who can hold desire and discipline in the same body. A man whose touch feels like it belongs because he belongs to himself first. That is your standard now. Not performance, not pressure, not imitation. Self-possession. Let your touch come from that. Let your restraint come from that. Let your confidence come from that. And when it does, you will stop trying to create attraction by force and start creating it by congruence. That is where deep attraction lives, not in tricks. In truth, you do not need more gimmicks. You do not need more lines. You do not need more internet nonsense about how to make her melt. You need more command over yourself, more awareness, more patience, more respect for timing, context, consent, and your own value. That is what turns touch from a clumsy attempt into a powerful extension of presence. So hear this clearly and take it with you. Your hands should never be ahead of your character. Your touch should never be ahead of trust. Your desire should never be ahead of your discipline. When those 3 stay in order, attraction stops feeling like a puzzle and starts feeling like alignment. And when you become that man, you stop reaching for confirmation in every interaction. You stop chasing evidence that you are enough. You stop moving like a man who needs to be chosen to feel worthy. You carry yourself differently. You touch differently. You lead differently. You become calmer, cleaner, stronger. And that is when women feel something deeper than surface chemistry. They feel coherence. They feel safety with edge. They feel masculinity without threat. They feel a man. That is the identity shift. You are not here to use touch to get women. You are here to become a man whose touch reflects self-respect, emotional control, and real presence. You are not here to perform attraction. You are here to embody it. You are not here to beg for closeness. You are here to create the kind of energy closeness naturally trusts. You are the answer. Your pace is the answer. Your discipline is the answer. Your groundedness is the answer. Your restraint is the answer. Your ability to want without chasing, to connect without imposing, to touch without asking for validation, that is the answer. If you want more truth like this, subscribe, because you need these reminders until they stop sounding like advice and start sounding like your nature. And if you are building that kind of masculine clarity, that kind of self-respect, that kind of calm power, then you belong here. You are not alone. You are around men who are done with cheap tactics and ready to become the kind of presence nobody has to be convinced to feel.